Okay, so today, the Mercury Comet again. We're going to look at this C4 transmission that I got. This is a 3-speed automatic transmission. Here's the transmission, dipstick, torque converters in here, and here's the bell housing and this little tiny bell housing cover. So what I'm going to do here, I think I'm told this is a working transmission. I didn't pay too much money for it. I've done this in the past. I've bought old transmissions like this and shoved them in and had no issues. What I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to take the pan off. I'm going to clean it. Right now I'm in the process of dumping whatever fluid was left in there. And what is in there does not look good at all. So I'm going to drain this. I'm going to take this cover off. I'm going to clean the exterior, take the cover off. There's a filter or a mesh in here. I'm going to take that off, clean it. I'm going to drain whatever's in the torque converter and try to clean that out. And maybe try to assemble this, put this together. It goes into gear, it clicks in and out, it turns, the park pin works. There's a wiring harness on this. This came off of an 80s car. We're not going to need any of this. I think this is for the park shift interlock. And anyway, I'm not going to have that. I'm going to lop these wires off right there. And yeah, let's see how this goes. Okay, so I got the transmission cleaned up a little bit. I took the pan off. Now the oil in the transmission did not look very good. It did not, and it still does not. But I'm going to get this all drained out. A little bit of sludge in the pan, but nothing too gritty. I'll get this all cleaned up. This is the filter. And the filter, these are pretty cheap. This is only just a mesh screen. I think I'm just going to clean this up. I will need a pan gasket. And that did not come in the engine kit because this is a transmission, obviously. This was laying in here. I don't know what this is. I'll have to do a bit of research. I don't know what this is or what it does. I don't know. Don't know where it goes. Don't even know if it belongs here. It probably does. Yeah, I don't know. Not sure. Not sure. So, transmission does not look horrible. All the gears, everything clicks. Everything feels good. When I put it in park, it locks the shaft in place. These are generally pretty robust. Unfortunately, the gasket broke. I will have to get one of these. So for now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean all this up, put this back together, do a little bit of research on this little plunger. I have no idea what this is right now. I don't know what it is or what it does. I'll probably still go ahead and put the bell housing on and clean the torque converter and put that in as well. Okay, continuing here with my transmission cleaning. I've got this all opened up. I poured some degreaser down here, all in through. I'm going to flip it back around, let that drain. I've got the bell housing, the filter, and the pan up on the hood of the car, drying. They've been degreased. They're drying out in the sun. And I'm also flushing the torque converter. I filled this a couple times with transmission fluid, sloshed it around, and I'm draining it through the plug. So it came out a little bit brown, but now at first, but now it's coming out nice and red. So I'm going to consider this clean. I'm going to put a little bit of fluid in here. I'm going to put the plug back in first. The Ford torque converters have a plug, so you can drain the torque converter. I'm going to put the plug back in. I'm going to throw some transmission fluid in here. I'm going to seal this up for tonight. And I'm going to call the torque converter good. I still have to get a pan gasket for the pan. After that, transmission will be considered done. Don't know if it works. That's as far as I'm going to go with this old transmission. Hopefully it's good. Time will tell. Okay, well, it's the next day, and I'm going to try to progress a bit on my transmission. So the last time we chatted, I had found this little piece here. This was floating in my transmission, and I had no idea what it was. I thought I bought a faulty transmission. As it turns out, what it is this is nothing more than a shipping plug. So they built the transmission, they put this to plug the hole, and when the transmission's assembled, they can They just simply push this through the transmission and they install the transmission tube. So that's all this is. I called the guy that had sold me the transmission. He claims that this was in every one, but he wasn't sure what it was. He thought it was maybe a magnet or something, but all it is, I guess these are in every old Ford transmissions. I even watched a video on YouTube where somebody was working on a truck from the 2000s, or maybe late 90s, but anyway, there was one of these shipping plugs in the transmission. So I'm going to take it out. Don't need it. I'm going to carry on here with my transmission. Okay, well, here's the transmission. Here's pretty much where I left off last time. Well, it's a little bit different. I did clean up the garage. I did bring the Mercury inside the garage. So no more getting rained on. She's going to be nice and dry in here. I'll be able to carry on with my floor pans, my engine transmission installation. I guess still got to finish the engine. But where I left off was with the transmission. So I think the plan for today, I solved this dilemma. So, yeah, crisis averted. I'll put this away. So the plan for today is last time the transmission, I kind of cleaned it. She's pretty degreased and clean, looking pretty good. I still need a transmission pan gasket. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off on the gasket. And in fact, I've just got the pan back on loose. And the plan for today is I'd like to put the bell housing on here and install the torque converter and get this all together in one unit. And then this will be ready to drop in. Or I shouldn't say drop in. This will then be ready to be mated to the engine, which is right here. So I got a couple hours today. I think I will do that. Get the bell housing on, the torque converter in place. And I think what I'm going to do, because this is laying on a piece of wood and it's going to be dragged around, I'm going to put the transmission and the motor in as is. And I'll come back later. You can buy these pans, and I mean, this is all cheap stuff, right, for a C4 Ford. I'll probably pick up a chrome transmission pan and a gasket. And I'll come in, once the transmission's in the car, I'll come in after and put that on. I think that will dress it up. It's only, I mean, they're not very expensive. And there's no sense getting a nice pan right now that's just laying on the floor. I'll just work with the old pan. Like I said, I need a gasket anyway. So let's get on with this. I'm going to put this bell housing on and torque converter and get this together. I'll consider the transmission ready to be mounted to the engine. All right, we'll check back in a bit. Okay, so it's only about 20 or 30 minutes later. We get the bell housing on, got the torque converter in place. I'm going to consider this transmission good for now, or done. Again, the transmission pan and the gasket, I'm going to do that once this is in the car. I've showed this before. This is the adapter kit. This is a straight bolt in underneath the car, and this is the brand new transmission mount that's going to mount right under the C4, just like that. I have to find some fasteners for that, but there it is there. So this is nice. I'm going to consider this good to go. I'm going to give this a little bit more of a wipe down. I'm going to clean it up a little bit more, maybe paint it black, and I'm going to leave that alone for now. So this is my transmission. We need to get the engine together, and we need to mate these two. So I think the engine will be the next step. Okay, so this is the C4 transmission going into the 62 Comet. So also with my transmission, just thought I would throw this in. With the C4 transmission, I also got this yoke, and this is a yoke obviously for a C4 transmission. This is the kind of transmission that will go in a mid-80s car, a Mustang, Granada, whatever you want to call it. Even pickup trucks had this C4 transmission. So obviously I had to get this because right here is the drive shaft for the Mercury Comet, and obviously this is the drive shaft that fit the old Ford-O-Matic 2-speed transmission. And unfortunately, they're entirely different. Believe me, I tried putting this in this transmission. It does not fit. This one is slightly bigger. And if you compare them, you can see one is slightly fatter than the other. And the splines on this one start right at the edge, and the other ones are more recessed. They're not that far off, but it's not a fit. So I'm going to have to somehow adapt this drive shaft. Well, it's not somehow. I've done this before. I'm going to have a drive shaft made. Hopefully, you can save a few dollars if they're able to reuse this. If they're able to reuse the shaft and find my U-joint that will basically, or find a piece that'll mate onto here that can be welded onto this. They'll probably come back with something bigger. It's going to be a little bit tricky, but I do know a place where they can have these made. I've done it before. They're not cheap. They're $500 or $600. Luckily, I have this because this is very expensive also. Now, the Mercury Comet has a very, very small rear end. I don't know what the gearing is. I'm not sure, but it's tiny. It basically looks like this. It's a very, very light-duty car, so I don't plan on changing the rear end. I just want to make this work. So, along with the drive line, this is going to have to be addressed also, but this will be in the future. Once the engine and transmission are in and mounted, I can take a measurement. What I'll do is I'll go to the machine shop. I will bring this, and I will bring that. And I'll just say, work your magic. I wish I could do this myself, but this is not the kind of thing you do yourself. These guys will cut that. They spin it. It has to be balanced. They do a nice job. Like I said, I've done this before. Other projects. It's not cheap, but this will have to be done also to make this transmission fit. Okay.